To give you a sense of the volume of events that we out of Silicon Flatirons are doing alone, remember this is a confederated decentralized approach. Last year we did about 48 events that are specific to entrepreneurship. The vast majority of them are free. We had over 6,600 attendees, which for a town our size is a pretty good clip. And that's what I mean in terms of the community convener and catalyst role of the university. We've been very active in inviting the startup community to convene on the campus. I highlighted in that second category, recruiter and teacher, the importance of entrepreneurs teaching on campus. I'll give you one other example that's been very powerful. I, as a tenure track faculty member, have been co-teaching a course on venture capital with a venture capitalist in the town. And that's a really interesting model to consider as I don't know how much you guys might already be doing this, but if you have entrepreneurs coming to campus, I think that's very healthy. The challenge is, as adjunct professors, they're often not necessarily steeped in teaching, they're often very time constrained. I really like the combination of combining an entrepreneur or a venture capitalist who's in the day-to-day with a podium tenure track professor in the classroom. We've had some success stories with that, and that's part of our recruiter and teacher part. I'll give a quick plug for something called the New Venture Challenge or Cross-Campus Championships if you're here on Wednesday night. That's coming here. We've got a business plan competition. And then the last thing I'll mention here is, as I mentioned, in terms of scholarship being translated into commercialization, it's really department specific in terms of how active CU has been. So there's been some departments where there is actually a more robust tradition of professors taking their leading edge research and turning it into ideas. There's other departments where frankly there's been a lot of resistance where at best a professor could hope that the tenure track gets put on hold, and at worst you're told, hey, are you serious about being a scholar or do you want to be a business person? And that's a culture that we're trying to change. I think Tim and Eric at the Innovation Center of the Rockies is really helping move the meter on that, as well as our efforts at the Tech Transfer Office. But that's an ongoing culture shift that I'd welcome ideas as to what you guys are seeing in terms of getting more of the scholarship into entrepreneurs. As someone said in an advisory board meeting that we had the other day, if your best professors are not starting businesses, then the hardest problems are not being solved. And I think that's probably true. So that's something that we're still trying to hit upon. For those of you that are interested more broadly in entrepreneurship in the scene here, there's a Hitchhiker's Guide to the Boulder Tech Startup Community with a number of nice pointers. I won't belabor that, but that's just something to call your attention to. As I mentioned, our cross-campus New Venture Challenge Entrepreneurship Championships are this Wednesday at 5 o'clock. It'll be a ton of fun if you want to get some sense for what's going on in the community. I'll pimp my Twitter handle if you're interested in following that. There's our Silicon Flatiron Center. But let me stop there and see what's interesting to you. Would love to compare notes in terms of the role of the university as well as the startup scene. Yeah.
Can you describe your championships in a little bit more detail? I mean, who competes and who's doing the judging?
Yeah. Maybe I'll say just a word about, this is the 5th year of our New Venture Challenge, and for those of you who have been in part of startups, it's fascinating to see something grow from, we just made this up, to something that starts to feel like an institution. We've kind of crossed that threshold now with year 5. Originally when we did this, the problem that we were combating was if you wanted to do a startup and you were not in the business school, it was very hard to know where you go to get access to the intelligence about how to do this. That was 5 years ago. As we've now had startup classes proliferate across the campus, what the New Venture Challenge has increasingly become is in the fall, make a ton of noise about entrepreneurship, get undergrad and graduate students fired up about it, encourage them to go take classes and get involved in building a business through classes. In parallel with that, we've got a network of about 60 mentors who are in the startup community who agree to this. They say, and Eric, I'll take where you were like 10 years ago as a student, right? I don't know Eric. I will mentor him blindly. I'll agree to take 2 coffee meetings. And if it works out that he actually listens and shows up, and I'll do more. And if not, I'll come back next year and try again. And that's been enormously powerful in coupling our student teams with mentors from the community. I'll tell you, and for those of you who are closely engaged with the university and mentoring, there's nothing more powerful than an experience of a mentor coming in from the outside and connecting with a student and having that relationship when it works. And from the student's perspective, they're getting access to people that otherwise it's going to be a while before they get in the room with, and certainly get the hands-on coaching. So, as I said, a ton of noise on the front end in November, get people fired up, get them formed in interdisciplinary teams. One of the mottos that we have is collapse the campus. Pair them with mentors. We have some competitions along the way, like a pitch competition for the IT students. We've got a minimal viable product competition. And then we have different tracks specific to social entrepreneurship, music, information technology. You get the idea, general track. And the winners of those tracks go out to our championships, where it's essentially a party. If you're thinking, how do you compare a, say, information technology company with a social entrepreneurship company? Not very well. And so we're transparent about that. I mean, the idea is to make this a celebration. There's some money in it, but the idea is mentorship and get people inspired. Yeah?
I'm just wondering about how your IP and tech transfer processes work, starting from the very beginning, where you're trying to encourage faculty to report their disclosures and inventions, and then sort of get that through the process. And you end up with Silicon Flatirons actually taking any rights in IP to make available to entrepreneurial activity, or is it all centralized through some part of the campus? How does that work?
So Tim and Eric, I'm going to tee you guys up for this here momentarily. The question, I don't know if you can hear it, Tim, is in terms of the IP process, I'll say a couple things. One of which is, we just had a very happy exit, a company called Line Rate Systems that was doing an IT infrastructure play, essentially a software algorithm related to a computer science PhD student's research that allowed for load balancers to get about 40% better performance. That was a good instance where the tech transfer office came in, said we are going to take a small position in this, and they were very upbeat about the experience of working with tech transfer. So that was a success story. Tim, Eric, can you guys say something more authoritatively about tech transfer and the IP process?
Yeah, we talked a little bit about that last night. So the real gatekeeper for the faculty to access the community is through the tech transfer office. The tech transfer office has to identify the faculty, has to decide that the research and the discoveries coming from that research rise to the level of an invention, and then make a determination if the university wants to make an investment in the creation of a patent based on that invention. And so that's the charter of the tech transfer office at CU. And so that's what they do. What will happen if it's a new faculty member that hasn't been through it before,